Welcome back, everybody, to Joe's Wrestling Review. I am your host, Joseph, and thank you for joining us today once again. We had a pretty decent show, I would say. Not a lot of matches. The big Bane match was CM Punk versus MJF, which clearly you saw because of the thumbnail of the video today. And there's a couple things to cover. Before we talk about the actual show. But before we get started with all the other wrestling related news, I would like to thank everybody for showing up to the last two wrestling videos. Those have actually been doing the best in our channel. So once again, thank you for the support. And if you would like to continue supporting us here at the Joe Lee Podcast, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. It does help out the content and make sure that other people get to see the content and hopefully they get to enjoy it as much as you guys do. So Dynamite for February the 2nd, 2022. The opening match was Jon Moxley versus Wheeler Yuta, and the reason I would say we were going to talk about things that happened before the show is because this match was actually scheduled to be Bryan Kendrick versus Jon Moxley. But it was changed due to some cancel culture. Some people, exposing some of the things that Bryan Kendrick has said. I'm not going to say them here on the podcast because for a new channel, we would like to not get, demonetized or, flagged for saying inappropriate things. But yeah, if you want to know what those are, there are very sensitive topics relating to a certain group of people. And so I'm not even going to touch that, but he said some things about controversies and, things that may or may have not happened, in his opinion. I don't support any of those ideologies that Bryan Kendrick had mentioned. But yeah, so Twitter, decided to bring all these things up from a video that he was talking in like 10 years ago. And so, Bryan Kendrick apologized on Twitter, and I don't know, it's up to you, the viewer, to come up with your own thinking on whether or not you forgive Bryan Kendrick for the things he said 10 years ago. But it's like, yes, those things are wrong, but like it was so long ago, like he could have changed his opinion by now. But It was probably the right move to remove him from television after like all the stuff came out regarding the things he had said in the past. But without further ado, we're just gonna get right into this match. Yuta is accompanied by Orange Cassidy and Danhausen, and we'll get to this a little later because the reason these two came out with Wheeler Yuta is more relevant than you think. Wheeler starts out but he swings out at Moxley very aggressively because I guess these two had fought in the past and it was way closer to a squash match. So he starts out, but Moxley likes to slow the pace down. He's not very much like a high energy, high flyer type of wrestler. He's more of a ground grappler with high intensity moves. Yuta's upset. This is the stuff. Due to his loss to Moxley in the past, which was a squash match, Moxley gets distracted, allowing Yuta to get some offense in. But Mox seemed to have a lot of like counters for Yuta. Distractions were because of Orange Cassidy and Danhausen. Yuta gets the up on Moxley every time, but the pace of the match shifts to grappling and chops and high impact moves, like I was mentioning before, to drop kicks and high flying maneuvers. So both these wrestlers going relatively back and forth with each other. Mox they were outside the ring. Mox gets in the face of Cassidy and is surprised when Danhausen does the little the curse pose behind him, which results in Yuta getting a crossbody on Mox. A little while after, Mox regains control, and after Cazadora into a sleeper hold, it goes into a King Kong Lariat. Moxley hits the paradigm shift to end the match. Now, while this was not the main focus of this like segment match, Bryan Danielson comes out, enters the ring, and is face to face with Mox. Bryan asks the crowd if they want to see them fight, and the audience replies with yes chants. So they go, yes, yes, yes. Bryan says he wants to test Moxley and that he has, and that that Jon Moxley was the best All Elite Wrestling champion. Bryan says that Mox and him should work together and that they could be world, tag, or even TNT champions if they were together, and that they should train the next generation of wrestlers. Mox is looking a little shaken up by the things he's saying. He's looking kind of not confused, but like he's thinking about it, but at the same time he's not. Bryan extends the offer and gives some time for Mox to think about it, and that's pretty much how the segment ends. Now I want to say this is pretty interesting because at first I was thinking, oh, we're gonna get a really cool match between these two, and we're going to get the match between these two, and then that's going to be the whole story. But this story is kind of turning into something where, like, maybe Moxley and Bryan Danielson, they're more like, I guess, old school mentality to wrestling, are trying to, like, train the wrestlers of the future. They during the promo, he brings up Lee Moriarty, Wheeler Yuta, and there's one more wrestler that I'm not quite remembering the name. Maybe it was Lee Johnson that he brought up. Can't quite remember. But he was saying, like, certain, like, the wrestlers he was, like, fighting today, like, are just, like, a bunch of jokes. He brought up Danhausen, which he thinks is a joke. He brought up, he called Adam Hangman Page a millennial cowboy, undeserving of the title. He called, Orange Cassidy a joke. And so I don't know if this story is going to more like those two are going to pair up and they're going to form, hoping not another faction, because that's the last thing we need, but maybe like their own, I guess, like on TV wrestling school. So it'll be pretty interesting to see where they go with this angle. Again, if they do just give us the match, I'll still be pretty happy with it because, it's Bryan and Moxley. Like they're gonna deliver a good match. But for now, things are developing, and I guess we'll probably figure out Mox's response in either next week or the week after. Okay, oh my goodness. I almost wanted to turn off the TV when I saw this. Brandi Rhodes is out in the ring and mispronounces the town's name. So she actually calls Chicago Cleveland, and the audience was not having it. And like, I'm thinking, did she do it on purpose? Did she not do it on purpose? Because, like, she's supposed to be a baby face with Cody. So I was like really confused. Like, it seemed like it was on purpose, but like it didn't make sense because then Dan Lambert came out. So again, really confused why we having two heels out. I mean, they just hate the crowd hates Brandi Rhodes. And to be fair, like, no one wants to see her anyways. The whole point of having like the women's division in AEW is to move away from things like reality television and like diva-esque type stuff on TV. Okay, so Dan Lambert comes out and tells Brandi she needs a reality check. Dan Lambert says he feels like a decent human being standing next to Brandi, which is quite hilarious if you ask me. He was playing up to the crowd pretty much. The crowd starts, Brandi tries to like rebut, but the crowd starts a STUF chant. I mean, you know what that means. And so, Brandi was trying to, I guess, like recover from the crowd being like negative towards her, but she kind of seemed like shaken up because of what was said to her. And so again, another instance of a character that shouldn't be a babyface being treated like a heel. And so maybe that threw her off, and she just wanted to get the segment done at this point. There was just a couple more exchanges, some lines that are said back and forth to each other. It was not that great. Paige Van Zant comes out and which I believe is an American top wrestler at Dan Lambert's school. So she drives Rhodes into the corner. The women's locker comes out and restrains both of them. I'm going to be honest with you here. I have no interest in seeing this. Paige Van Zandt is an MMA fighter, I believe. I'm not sure. But usually MMA fighters don't really translate into pro wrestling that well. Like, the only case that I've seen that was like really good was Shayna Baszler. But they're not even doing anything with her. Like, she's more of a grappler, like, sort of style. So I don't know how this is going to work with Paige Van Zandt, but hopefully this is like really short, or it's just on Dynamite, because I don't want to see this drag out too long, and I definitely don't want to see it at Revolution. Okay, backstage with Andrade, Hardy family office. Matt is disappointed with Private Party, and then Hardy challenges for the TNT Championship on Friday on Rampage. Andrade comes in and talks about not having Darby in the AHFO, and he's just sure why he can't get him. Then when Andrade comes in, he says that Isaiah Cassidy is going to fight for the match. So I was a little confused. So if you go back and look at it, it seems like Hardy challenged, but then it quickly shifted to Isaiah Cassidy. So that kind of threw me off. So I'm not sure what the official match is. If I find the official match, I'll have the graphic up on the screen right now. If not, then I'm assuming it's just Hardy versus Isaiah Cassidy. I'm sorry, Sammy Guevara versus Isaiah Cassidy. So the segment ends with Hardy encouraging Isaiah Cassidy to win the title. Man, it sucks that like Private Party is with AHFO, because I don't know, it's just none of these guys like gel together. Butcher Blade are like way too dark to be hanging around with Private Party, because they have like two different vibes. Like, one is like kind of like a metal style vibe, and the other one's kind of like a hip hop party sort of deal going on. So I just don't want to see these people together. Even Matt Hardy, like his gimmick right now is just so bad. Like, I'm hoping when Jeff comes in, which is inevitable at this point, that they kind of like split up the whole Hardy family office. But I have a feeling that they're going to switch it over to Andrade, and it's going to be the Andrade family office, which is going to be, oh man, I just don't want them to drag out. All the teams here are better split away from each other. If you want to put, Butcher and Blade with House of Black, that would be awesome. I think those two like gel together very well. But they're already a tag team. So what do? You split up Kings of the Black Throne and make them singles competitors. I mean, that could work. But yeah, for the time being, these segments are bad. Sting versus not Sting, Darby versus Andrade. I think that's going to be an awesome match. Hopefully to set up for Revolution, and I have full faith that they're going to deliver on that. Okay, next segment. Kings of the Black Throne versus Death Triangle. Pac comes out with a blindfold, and Alex Abrahantes is like holding onto the shoulder, guiding him to the ring. And so, I guess Pac starts the match, and he's in the middle of the ring standing with the blindfold. He's kind of like playing mind games with Malachi Black, because, Malachi's that's all Malachi Black does, is play mind games. So he stands there, and, Malachi is kind of like trying to figure out if this is a trick or not. And so then when he goes for the first strike, Pac dodges it, and like the crowd goes, it popped pretty well for that spot. And then he dodges a couple more. So Pac's vision was back to normal. Pac and Penta hit a over the top spot to their opponents after a couple strikes, and it pretty much goes to commercial. Not a lot of time spent at the beginning of this match, but it went into picture-in-picture. It's hard to watch picture-in-picture. I just tend to call it commercials, and I'll go do something or catch up on the notes. But yeah, when we come back, we have Kings of the Black Throne have Pac cornered. Pac manages to get the hot tag from Penta after figuring out a way out. Penta managed to take on Brody and Malachi at the same time. Malachi Black ends up laying out Penta, but not before a blind tag to Pac. Malachi and Pac exchange blows, and after some strikes by Black, Pac gets released German suplex. It turns it into a brain buster, but no one gets pinned. After some interference by Brody King, Penta and Brody exchange strikes. Pac almost hits the fear factor, but Penta gets hit with the Black Mist by Malachi, and after hitting Dante's Inferno, this allows Brody to get the pin. So Kings of the Black Throne looking absolutely strong. They have to cheat a little bit to win these matches, but to me, it's not like that big of a deal. Like, they've been doing the Black Mist for a while now, so it doesn't bother me at all. Kings of the Black Throne, I feel like they're really building them to take the tag titles, but I would like to see Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus like take that title a little further. Maybe like towards the end of the year, it would be good for them for Jurassic Express to lose to Kings of the Black Throne, as you don't really want to push Malachi into the main event scene, because as you can see, like, we're already setting up two opponents for Adam Hangman Page. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Actually, that's the next segment. Backstage with Adam Cole, baby. Cole is frustrated with everyone saying that Orange Cassidy beat him. He says everyone will now see a new side of Adam Cole. And after he beats Evil Uno next week, when he beats Evil Uno on Rampage, everyone will know what he wants. So it's like the rankings suggest. Adam Cole is now set to, go for the main title, and I believe this is going to take us into Revolution. I believe Revolution is March the 6th. So there's now, enough time to build this feud from 2 weeks from now all the way to the end of March. So they're doing the Lance Archer feud, and I believe that after Adam Cole beats Evil Uno, he'll come out next week right before the Texas Death Match, and he'll say that he wants the AEW title. And he's number one ranked, so he kind of deserves it. Okay. Next segment, Nyla Rose versus Ruby Soho. Ruby throws her jacket at Nyla and attacks her. Nyla is able to pretty much dominate Soho. Nyla goes for a leg drop, and Soho is able to counter with a kick to the face. After Nyla tries to drive Soho into the corner, Nyla transitions it into a Samoan drop. After several chops, Ruby responds with her own, but Nyla slams Soho and hits a leg drop. After a similar sequence of strikes, we go into commercials. When we return, Ruby and Nyla are on the ring apron. Soho gets Nyla into a fireman's carry position and drops her on the ring apron. Then Soho gets distracted by Vicky Guerrero. And this allows Nyla to set up a beast bomb, but it is countered into a no future, which is Soho's finishing maneuver. Soho goes for the pin, but Vicky moves Nyla's leg under the rope. This saves her as the referee, sees that the leg is under the rope, so it breaks the count. Ruby goes after Vicky, but Nyla pulls Soho back into the ring by her hair. Nyla tries to get a beast bomb off the top turnbuckle, but that gets countered. Soho aims for a no future, but misses, and it's just because Nyla was on the top rope still, and she went no future's kind of like a Pele kick to the neck. But so Nyla was hanging, and then she moved. She moved up. This allows Nyla to hit a senton into a beast bomb, and that's how she wins the match. Match was pretty good. Ruby Soho has been losing a lot, and I get it. Like, you can only have so many people vying for the title at the time, and maybe Ruby Soho versus Jade Cargill is the match you want. in order to make Soho a champion. So you're kind of like, it's kind of going down right now for her. And she's gonna find a way to like pick herself up. So yeah, Soho versus Cargill. Man, the last time we saw that, it was not good. And I think it's mostly because like there was just no chemistry between the two in the match. But hopefully next time they kind of like rehearse their match a little bit more. That's why we have Dark. That's why we have Rampage, is for people to get better, to have more experience. So, I would like to see Jade Cargill more in the ring. I think this match proved that, it wasn't necessarily Soho's fault for not carrying Cargill, because this showed that Soho can actually wrestle a pretty decent match. I mean, this was nothing to write home about. It wasn't a 5-star or anything like that, but, she's pretty decent. She's fluent in the ring. She makes everything believable. And so these two actually delivered a quality match. If I had to give it a rating, it's a 3, but it's a pretty decent 3. Okay. Backstage, the Gun Club attack Jungle Boy in his locker room, and conveniently enough, it was by the door, which they throw him into some snow outside. The Gun Club scatters before Christian and Luchasaurus are able to do anything. Just adding some fanning the flames of this feud. It's a pretty meh feud. Gun Club is not really there, and I kind of wish that they would ditch his dad and try to be like their own people. No, there's no real problem with carrying the Gun name. Like, I'm not saying they should be different people, but it's kind of weird. Like, you're hanging out with your dad while you're trying to like act seriously. So I don't know. I'm just, this feud's not quite for me, but I mean, if they deliver a quality match, hey, I'm willing to be surprised. Okay, Tony Schiavone introduces Adam Hangman Page. Tony again announces the Texas Death Match and asks for Hangman's opinion. Hangman responds by saying that he is looking for a challenge and asks Archer to come out and fight him right now. Dan Lambert comes out with Jake the Snake. Dan Lambert went through his usual stick of, him not being a cowboy, but then Jake the Snake was talking and I couldn't hear what he was saying. I think the stadium was also having a problem. It's just his voice is just way too raspy. I don't know if because that's of age, because that's of smoking. I mean, I don't know. But it was pretty inaudible. Right as he's ending his part of the promo, Lance comes out and charges into the ring. Hangman hits him with the tope suicida as he's charging towards the ring. Lambert tries to hit Hangman with the chair. But as Hangman is distracted, Archer beats up Hangman and hits the blackout through a table in the Bellkeeper's area. So, they're just quickly building this feud for next week. And this is just kind of a transitional feud between this and then Adam Cole. So, I mean, it should be fun. Match next week. Looking forward to it. I'm sure that will be the main event. Yeah. All right, Chris Jericho backstage talks about Santana and Ortiz not tagging him out as very disrespectful. He says that they started AEW together and that Kingston should not hold their past over their heads. Jericho calls himself the influencer and calls an inner circle meeting. Yeah, man, I think the inner circle is going to disband next week, or they're going to build this story where they disband. And I think it's time. I was thinking about it, and I don't think Sammy Guevara needs Chris Jericho. I don't think Proud and Powerful need Chris Jericho, Santana Ortiz. The only people I see needing the inner circle to stay like relevant are Jericho and Jake Hager. But even Jake Hager has taken a more backstage role for the company, so I'm just finding a hard time keeping this faction together, especially because it seems like it's anchoring down certain like talent. So I think it's time to end the inner circle. If they make a good storyline out of it, great. But like Chris Jericho is really becoming like a nuisance on television. I would rather this spot be open to, some younger talent. Okay, now we get to the main event, which almost lasted an hour. So I have a lot to read. It's like about a page and a half of like notes of this match. Okay, so MJF comes out and rips some sign. One of them actually said MJF is 2K20 incarnate, which I found to be hilarious. Like 2K20 is like, they're talking about WWE 2K20, and it's one of the worst games in wrestling history. So the fact that he called him that's a pretty bad insult. I found that hilarious. I don't know if anyone else saw it, but again, I thought it was funny. CM Punk comes out and is cheered. It's in Chicago. It's his hometown. Although the crowd was kind of they were kind of this time around. I don't know if it's because of the sound guy is not making it sound as good. But usually Chicago is pretty loud. I'm surprised that didn't come off that way on television. Okay, when the match starts, MJF immediately hides between the ropes, and then like does like a weird strike where like the rope is like this, and he like strikes him like over. Yeah, it was weird. Weird strike to start out the match. Then gets him into the corner. Punk counters with some strikes of his own and gets in between the ropes and counters strikes to MJF's forehead. MJF runs into the crowd, but Punk catches up to him. Punk stomps MJF on the stairs, the stadium stairs, and he places MJF's legs between the rail guards, so he could just kind of like props him up, and it hits him where. Then he throws him over the barricade. After some body slams, the crowd gets into it, and Punk sets himself up for a maneuver over the turnbuckle. MJF rolls out of range and positions himself on the opposite side of the turnbuckle. He positions himself in front of the turnbuckle. Punk charges at MJF, but MJF moves. This takes us into commercial. He hits his shoulder, the same spot where the one guy runs, the other guy dodges, and like he goes through the ropes and he hits the ring post. Let's see. Okay, when we return, MJF has CM Punk on the top turnbuckle. Punk strikes back and hits him with a net breaker. After that, he hits a bulldog and signals for the GTS. MJF rolls out of the apron and puts him in a front body slam. Punk goes to the top rope, but MJF hits the top rope, and this throws Punk off balance. MJF hits Punk with a superplex, but only gets a 2 count. Punk actually hits a Pepsi twist, and he'll bring out his other Pepsi arsenal in a little bit, and signals for the GTS again. MJF pulls the referee, and after letting him go, he pushes the referee away. MJF pulls some like tape. I don't know where it came from. I kind of forgot, and it's not in my notes, but he pulls some tape out, and he pretty much like gets him in like a sleeper hold, and he has like the tape to choke Punk out. The referee can't see it. So then he pretty much the referee goes, picks up Punk's hand, lets it go. He does this 3 times, and the match ends. And so like I was thinking, oh man, this is how the match ended, and it's kind of soon. I'm like, there's like 30 minutes left. I'm sure we're gonna get like some like surprises or something like that, like after this, or we're gonna get another match, and it's gonna be like Cody or something like that. But no. After the match, MJF drops the tape in front of the referee as like he's trying to put his hand up, and Bryce Remsburg. I can't pronounce his name. Bryce looks at MJF, and then he's looking at the tape, and then so he goes back and he tells the announcer by the bell keepers area that the match is going to restart because he saw the tape, and so they pretty much restart the match. I was like super glad they did because I kind of didn't want the match to end that way, or I just wanted to have more of the match. Either one of those 2 reasons are probably the reason why I didn't want it to end. Yeah, so then Punk goes for a roll up, and it is almost a near fall. And after some strikes on the top rope, we pretty much go to commercial. When we return, MJF sets up the Heat Seeker. Punk pushes MJF and hits a springboard lariat. And after a drop kick to the outside, CM Punk hits a tope and drags MJF back into the ring. He counters a setup in the corner and strikes the limbs of Punk. And this is going to become a recurring thing throughout the match, even though I won't mention it anymore in my notes. But he kind of like strikes his limbs and like tries to like weaken his either his right arm and right leg, or left arm and left leg. Punk puts him in a half crab. Oh, no. MJF puts CM Punk in a half crab, and then CM Punk does his own half crab and then transitions it into a STF, which is, John Cena's old lock move. He can't hold on it due to the sustained damage to the limbs. When he's setting up the GTS, he can't sustain it, so his leg gives in. After some grappling exchanges between Punk uses the middle turnbuckle as he uses the momentum for an ankle lock. So this is kind of weird to explain because like MJF has him in an ankle lock, and then the Punk like tucks his head in and then kind of kicks forward, and that sends MJF flying. Punk hits a reverse Rana after both of them get up. Punk hits a reverse Rana and lays himself out as well as his head hit the canvas. So this is a pretty interesting spot. Both of them are down again. Punk tries to stand up and collapses on his knee twice. MJF goes for the salt of the earth, but it is countered, and Punk goes for a kick to the neck and misses. And at this point, like both of these wrestlers are like the announcers would say, in the deep end, and they're trying to at least get some hits in, but they're both missing. MJF gets in a pump handle for a near fall. MJF sneaks in a low blow, but Punk kicks out, and that takes us again into the last set of commercials. When we return, MJF is twisting Punk's ankle. Punk goes for a roll-up and hits a drop kick. During a bulldog attempt, MJF hits Punk in the head and on his forehead. Then he props Punk on the turnbuckle, and Punk bites MJF's forehead. Then Punk hits the pedigree, or I think they were calling it the Pepsi splash or something like that. But he hits like a pedigree from the top turnbuckle, basically. Punk can't get a pin because he's pretty much dragging himself with his other arm at this point. And, as he drags himself pretty close to MJF, he rolls out of the ring. Punk hits a roundhouse kick on MJF, and then Punk goes for an elbow drop from the top rope. MJF kicks out. Punk pumped the crowd up, signals for the GTS. But again, MJF kind of like stumbled his way out of the ring. Like this time, it wasn't like a rollout. Like he legitimately was walking towards Punk, and then kind of like stumbled to the ropes and like fell in between. Wardlow comes out and looks at Punk. He's looking at Punk. He's looking at MJF, and this is like, this has kind of been building up with the Wardlow story, and it seems like Wardlow is gonna go like and betray MJF. But all he does is pretty much provide a distraction. MJF hits Punk with the Dynamite diamond ring and pretty much gets the pinfall. This is how MJF wins. Wardlow once again looks disgusted with what he did. On the replay, we see Wardlow was the one who passed MJF the ring. I didn't quite see it even after the replay, but I'll take their word for it. And the show ends with MJF celebrating over CM Punk, and Wardlow still looks pretty disappointed in the background. And that was your AEW Dynamite review for February 2nd. There's some building up going on right now, and they're doing the MJF storyline, which I think after we get the Adam Cole storyline, I think that's leading us into Revolution, which is the next pay-per-view. And after Revolution, we're going to get something in between, because you have to book pretty much like 3 months of storylines in between. They could book it like as soon as Revolution's over, MJF versus, Adam Hangman Page. And I think that's when Page is going to lose the title. Because, MJF, I'm not going to lie, is just doing way better than Page right now. And, as much as like the story with Page was cool, what they're doing with MJF is way better. So I think we maybe get something, after Revolution for Hangman, maybe like a quick challenge or something like that by, some heel. And then, it could even be Powerhouse Hobbs. Like, I would love to see Hobbs versus Adam Hangman Page. I don't know if they've done it in the past. Maybe they have on Dark or something like that. But that would be interesting. And then after he beats Powerhouse Hobbs, he can go into the MJF storyline. And then, is it Double or Nothing? I think it's Double or Nothing when that's the next pay-per-view. And then at Double or Nothing, MJF can win the World Championship. And that would be awesome, to be perfectly honest. The Wardlow storyline is doing really good. But I think at the end of the day, Wardlow is going to cost MJF the AEW Championship. I don't know who it'll be against, because, I can't even see who's going to win it, because, it's got to go from heel to a babyface, and then from babyface to a heel. Or it could happen on like a triple threat match or a fatal 4-way, where he could lose it. But we're setting up stories, and I appreciate that, because I feel like I have something to look forward to every week. Like, now I got the Wardlow storyline, I got the Adam Cole storyline. There's the Lance Archer match next week. I mean, we've gotten back-to-back amazing matches. We got the ladder match. We got the Lights Out match. We got the Punk match, and we're gonna get the Texas Death match next week. So like overall, we've been getting like really good shows back to back. Now this show was it's like an 8 for me. But yeah, that's about it. Next week we have some cool stuff again, like the Texas Death match between Adam Hangman Page and Lance Archer. You can see the ratings over here to my right. The reason why I didn't talk about the ratings this week is because they have not been updated at the time of recording, which is Thursday night. And so, I wasn't able to update the graphics for the show this week. Hopefully, when I'm done recording, the graphics will be, up again. And so I could just throw it over this outline. So if there's any changes, just discard what I'm saying right now. Okay, if you enjoyed today's content, once again, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It does help out the channel and helps out with the algorithm, and we definitely need that help right now, especially since we're heading into off season. Some of the content as far as football might be a little bit more scarce. Watch the podcast, the Jolie podcast from this week. It is live right now, and so I will be seeing you on Thursday for the new episode of the Jolie podcast. And if you aren't into football, I'll be seeing you on Friday for a new episode of Joe's Wrestling Review. For Joseph Yanez, this is the Jolie podcast. I will see you next week.